This video discusses fictional novels with disturbing themes including graphic violence, psychological abuse, body horror, assault, and other materials that some viewers may find upsetting. I will not show explicit content. Some words may be censored. This is an analysis, not a recommendation list.
I recently released the second part of the most disturbing visual novels, Iceberg, where we dove even deeper into some of the most twisted gaming stories you can find on the internet. Now we go even lower, to what is, hopefully, the very bottom. So let's dive in, as much as YouTube will allow. Level 4. Level 4 is where curiosity stops being harmless. These are no longer just dark visual novels with shocking scenes. These are the ones where even describing them becomes a problem. The fun is gone. The edgy curiosity starts to feel stupid. You look at the title, read the premise, see one screenshot, and part of your brain goes, maybe don't. If you somehow still want to continue this descent, this is probably a good moment to subscribe. After this point, the algorithm may pretend it never saw me. Alright, lower. Nia no Hakoniwa. Nia no Hakoniwa is a historical horror visual novel set on an isolated island ruled by old clans and older rituals. At the center of the story is Kuro Yasaka, an orphan raised by a family of assassins. He is brought into the powerful Shiki clan as a possible male heir and eventually becomes engaged to Kyoko Shiki. For a while, the story has a tragic romance feeling to it. Cold family politics, old rules, people speaking politely even when every sentence has a knife under it. Then the wedding happens, and the story drops. A mysterious box connected to an ancient power struggle appears, and the clan begins to fall apart. People start losing their minds. The past crawls back into the present. The island turns into a place where every room feels like it has already seen something terrible. What makes Nia no Hakoniwa so hard to process is the whiplash. It lets you relax, then it punishes you for relaxing. A warm scene between two characters can suddenly collapse into screaming, blood, and a room full of people who no longer feel human. The brutality is not distant. It interrupts every scene that almost felt safe. This is the part that hits. The story gives you intimacy first, then it breaks it in your hands. ChronoBox. ChronoBox starts as a cheerful school comedy, which is already suspicious because we are on level 4. The protagonist, Nayuta, attends a secluded school on Angel Island. The place feels almost too perfect. A small island, a colorful group of friends, peaceful daily life, no real outside world pressing in. The strange part is that everyone acts like this is normal. There are students and teachers, but almost no one else. The island feels like a strange set where nobody bothered to build the streets behind the walls. Then a girl in black appears, along with a strange black box with an eye inside. After Nayuta gets close to one of the girls, the game resets to the first day. At first, it feels like a loop mechanic, something clever, something you're supposed to solve. Then the loops start damaging the world. Characters disappear. Some return broken. Nayuta's memories begin to rot. The school comedy keeps replaying, but now every cheerful scene feels wrong because you know what might be hiding behind it. This is one of those stories where the loop stops feeling like a narrative trick and starts feeling like punishment. A classroom, same dialogue, same smile, except this time, someone is missing from the room. That is ChronoBox. The game teaches you to distrust repetition. Sayonara wa Oshiete. Sayonara wa Oshiete is an iconic visual novel from 2001 and one of the major works of the denpa genre, a style of psychological horror built around paranoia, delusion, and mental collapse. The protagonist, Hirosuke Hitomi, is a student teacher at an all-girls academy. His daily life is dull and repetitive lessons, paperwork, reprimands from his supervisors, and smoking during breaks. Nothing dramatic at first, just a man slowly coming apart. Hitomi suffers from depression, insomnia, and severe social anxiety. Every night, he has the same nightmare. He becomes a monster and torments a winged angel. Then he meets Mitsuki Sugamo, a withdrawn student who looks exactly like the angel from his dreams. From that point on, reality starts leaking. Unlike many entries this low on the iceberg, Sayonara wo Oshiete does not need constant gore to be disturbing. Its horror comes from atmosphere. Sick yellow colors, warped rooms, conversations that feel slightly delayed, like the world is buffering through a damaged mind. You cannot trust the protagonist. You cannot trust the school. At some point, you cannot even trust the screen. The game feels like being trapped inside someone's fever dream while they insist everything is normal. And the ending twist reframes the entire story in a way that makes the earlier scenes feel even worse. Not louder, worse. Maggot Baits. Maggot Baits is one of the most extreme visual novels connected to gore and body horror. This is the point where I have to be careful because too much detail would make the video worse, not better. The story takes place in Kajo, a Japanese city that became connected to another dimension of primal magic. Witches started appearing there, almost immortal and violently powerful. The government sealed the city away and erased it from the maps. The protagonist is Shogo Sunuga, a former policeman carrying severe trauma. He leads a resistance squad and hunts people who use witches as objects of torture and entertainment. The key word here is immortality. In most horror stories, death is the final threat. In Maggot Baits, death gets taken away. Bodies heal just enough for the same nightmare to continue. That is the central cruelty. A victim breaks, then heals, then the room resets. Even death stops being an exit. The violence is extreme, but the oppressive part is the loop. Pain becomes a system. Suffering becomes maintenance. The body keeps coming back like the story refuses to let it rest. Yeah, this one is exhausting even as a concept. Level 5. Level 5 is different. At this point, I don't even know how much of this can be called horror and how much of it is just someone testing what they can get away with. The previous level still had stories you could analyze. Terrible stories, sure, but stories. Here, the line starts to rot. Some of these works feel less like fiction and more like a folder someone should have deleted before uploading anything to the internet. Final warning. We are at the bottom, or at least the bottom that we can name. Cyclet. Cyclet is hard to cover as one entry because it's not about one title. The studio's whole catalog feels built around the same obsession, reducing people to bodies, bodies to props, and suffering to a mechanic. Dasaku treats suffering like a performance. Fukushu no Necromancer removes death as a release. Konshu Kansatsu goes into body horror so grotesque that describing it directly would add nothing useful to this video. And that is the problem with Cyclet. There is a point where analysis stops being interesting. You're no longer asking what the story means, you're asking why the camera's still looking. A body on display, a scene held too long, a premise that feels designed to make the viewer regret curiosity. This is where the iceberg stops feeling like disturbing fiction and starts feeling like a content boundary test. So I'm not going into detail. That is probably the healthiest choice in this entire video. Dust Mania Grotesque. And finally, Dust Mania Grotesque. An independent visual novel this time, not another Black Psych title. There is a term in Japanese game culture, kusoge. Basically, a garbage game. Not bad in a charming way, not so bad it becomes funny, just broken, ugly, barely functioning. Dustmania Grotesque fits that label almost too well. The disturbing part is not only the content, it's the whole texture of the thing. The artwork looks unpleasant. The pacing barely holds together. The presentation feels cheap in a way that makes every scene feel even dirtier. The cruelty does not land like crafted horror. It lands like something found on an old hard drive with no context. That might be worse. A good horror game can at least feel intentional. Dustmania feels like the bottom of a file-sharing site became sentient for 5 minutes and just uploaded itself. A bad drawing, a broken scene transition, a line of text that feels like it should not exist. This is not the kind of disturbing that impresses you. It just leaves residue. In short, let's agree on something. Do not search the games from this level. I am serious, it is not worth it. Level 6. What? Level 6? But the previous one was the last, right? As far as we know, yeah. And that's the worst part of the iceberg. Not the titles we covered, the possibility that this is still not the bottom. The internet is too old, too massive, and too good at forgetting things. Somewhere out there might be another visual novel, another abandoned file, another thing made by someone who pushed fiction further than anyone should have. Maybe it is lost on some dead forum. Maybe it was uploaded once, downloaded by 12 people, and then buried under years of broken links. And maybe that's better, because this iceberg is not a recommendation list, it is a warning about how far fiction can sink when curiosity, obsession, and cruelty keep feeding each other. Not everything hidden is worth finding. Sometimes curiosity leads to knowledge, and sometimes it leads to a folder you wish you'd never opened. So, subscribe if you want more dives into strange and disturbing games, and for now, stay away from the bottom.